All right, hello folks. My name is David. I am doing a reaction video today to a couple videos of why engineering students are dropping out, the dropout problem of a lot of engineering students have. And I think this is probably going to help some of you guys who are in engineering college right now, doing an engineering school, and you might be considering dropping out. You might feel like you're the only one who's going through this situation. My background is I have a bachelor degree in physics. I originally started at Penn State University for mechanical engineering. I went there for a couple years and I dropped out because it was really hard, but I never gave up. I even went to academic advisor at the engineering college, and they told me to just switch major because engineering was too hard for me, and a person like me would never finish engineering. So I eventually left. I joined the United States Air Force. I worked for a few years, and I was able to gain the discipline that I needed so that I could finish my degree. I know I went for physics instead of engineering, but physics and engineering is two sides of the same coin. They're exactly the same. Other things that engineering can do, physicists can do as well. Engineering is just by physics. So let's go through these videos and maybe we can help. Oh, another background also, I am currently working as a mechanical engineering for USPTO. I'm doing an ME job as a physicist, and you can do the same as well. Physics and engineering is similar. So let's start this video, and I'm going to be reacting to it and see what seemed to be the problem here.
These machines are moving more than dirt. They're moving jobs too. And entry-level engineers here rake in $65,000 a year. Companies from
Okay, let's
Caterpillar.
pause this real quick. If this is $65,000 a year, I know some of you be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so low for engineering." Okay, this was taken in 2011. 2011, so that was 11 years, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. So I graduated from high school in 2012. So I went to Penn State University in 2012, and I dropped out in 2015. Then I went to the military in 2016, separated in 2020. So that's a long time ago. This year of recording is 2023. So keep in mind of inflation rate and different things.
To Google are on the hunt for engineers.
You were an engineering major here.
Yes.
And then what?
I was struggling in the program, so I decided to study something different. And right now, I'm majoring in public relation advertising.
Okay, let's pause. This gentleman was very honest with why he's dropping out of engineering. So most of the time, when you ask someone, why did you switch out of engineering, or why did you do something else, they'll say along the line of, well, I just don't think engineering is the best fit for me, or I'm not very interested in engineering. The real reason around it is engineering is a very, very hard degree. It is the hardest, a lot of people will say, with a 60 to 65% dropout rate. It is the highest of any degree out there. So he was very honest, and then he went to public relations, which is not going to give him the same type of job securities and other things. So it's a little advice for some of you guys who are considering dropping out of engineering. If you go to a top tier school for engineering, like I did for mechanical engineering, like it is ranked 24, 22. I have this pulled up. This is the US New. If it's in the top 50, it's probably going to be very hard. So let's go down and let's go to, I believe it's number 22. Number 22, right here. Pennsylvania State University. So it's ranked 22. It is very, 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 very competitive. And if you look down here in the type of engineering, so this is for me, it's number 8 in biological engineering. It's number 10th for industrial and number 9th for material, 7th for petroleum. The year that I was attending in 2012, it was number 6 for industrial and material. So both of them were number 6 when I was attending there. If you are going to one of these really top tier engineering school, Of course, number one is MIT, number two is Stanford. That's always been the thing. If you find yourself struggling at this university, instead of switching to another degree where you might not have that kind of job security, you might not have that safety net of the starting salary and what you would end up. What I recommend you do first is switch school, right? Like I was dating a girl at that time. She was going for a chemistry degree, so she went to VM, which is University of Vermont in Burlington, Vermont, and her calculus, her chemistry courses, her physics courses, all her entry level engineering courses is all STEM major have to take was a joke compared to what I have to take at Penn State University. So I was very stubborn. I was like, oh, I must have Penn State name on my degree, not knowing that it really doesn't matter, right? It really, really doesn't matter. People really, really don't care. They care more about your GPA, so you could go to a different school and reset your GPA. And that's what I actually did when I left. I didn't go back to Penn State. I went to Liberty University instead to finish my physics degree, and I got a 3.9 GPA because it resets. Instead of going back to Penn State and getting a 2.0 GPA and then have to work up from that, and I would not get the 3.9 GPA that I have today, where I could use that to get a better job. And of course, all the classes I had transfer over. So let's get back to the video. I don't want to talk too long.
College of New York, only 35% of students who enter the engineering
Yep,
school
sounds about right.
graduate as engineers.
Yep.
With 9%
Okay,
unemployment and
so the funniest thing, in 2012 when I went to Penn State, we went to an engineering orientation at the College of Engineering, and the dean of engineering, she came out and she talked to us engineering students, and she told us to look in front of you, look to the side, look to the left, look behind you. Only one of you will become an engineer, because that's the statistic of it. And it really, really is true. So if you're in engineering school right now, you're gonna see calculus 1, which is the most dropout. Calculus 2 is number 2 most dropout classes. If you go to these like entry level engineering classes, the first day of class, it's going to be full jam pack of students, and with each successive midterm and exam, you're going to have less and less students. So by the first midterm, and the grade comes back after the first midterm, half of the class will be gone, and then after the second midterm, another quarter will be gone, and then by the final, you're sitting in class. It's almost a ghost town in the engineering class. This is very, very normal in these engineering class. Even in higher engineering physics engineering courses, a lot of people do drop out as well.
desperate to hire engineers, you'd think undergrads would be lining up to major in the sciences. But few are, and many who do are quitting them.
I needed to raise my GPA to stay in school, and that's what I did. So I left.
See what he did? He had to raise his GPA to stay at school at the Grove University. I think it's probably pretty difficult for that engineering school as well. So what he could have done was, instead of staying in his school, he could have gone to a community college. So he would drop out, go to community college for 2 years. That's what I did. When I was in the military, I went to Rowan College of Burlington County, and I was able to get my associate degree in physics. I started out as engineering, but it was COVID. During my last class, I had to go in for lab, and they were shutting down all the schools. So I can't go to school to do the chemistry lab, so I couldn't get the engineering degree. But the physics track, I don't have to do the chemistry lab. I could do the programming class, and I was going to get my associate degree in physics, which is what I did. It's how I end up with an associate degree in physics, not an associate degree in engineering. But then I eventually got a bachelor degree in physics, which allows me to work in the engineering field. For someone like him, I would be like, hey, why don't you transfer to a community college where it's a little bit easier? You learn the exact same thing, as long as it's regionally accredited. Okay, that's important. You need to make sure that the school you're transferring is regionally accredited. So you go to that school. For 2 years, you transfer all your classes. If some of your classes don't transfer, you do an appeal, and then you get a transfer. So after you get a transfer and you study, you finish your 2 years degree, get an associate degree in engineering, then you can transfer it to a different school, right? You can go back to your ordinary school because all your readout courses at these tougher school are all done, or you could just go to a different school that maybe not as competitive. Like what I said is UVM, University of Vermont. It's actually really, really easy to do engineering over there, right? That's one other school. There's plenty of other school. If you started out on one of these um, easier school and you still can't do it, then well, you might need to go into the Air Force like I did and get some discipline and some integrity, and then maybe you can come back and finish it.
Alina Sabanska has dreamed of being a scientist since she was a young girl.
But 2/3 dropout. That was actually my experience with my friends. 3 of us started together as freshmen, 2 of them switched out of the major.
But City
That's very
College
normal.
isn't alone. It's a national phenomenon. 22% of students choose a STEM major, that's science, technology, engineering, or math, at some point in their college career. But only 14% finish school in a STEM major.
Yep.
After just finishing the assignments, you have to put in extra work, so it's like maybe 8 hours a day extra.
Outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
I think
Okay. So studying for engineering, yes, it's 8 hours a day outside of your classroom that you should be studying for engineering if you want to get good grades, right? If you want to pass with a CC, get degrees, and you could probably get away with 5 or 4, depending on how smart you are, how well you can take the material if you already have the background in it. For a regular day for me in engineering was that 40 hours a week studying on top of classes. So classes hours doesn't count. The same for physics as well because it's very similar. So a lot of students they can't deal with the rigor, and then you look at your peers where they say, oh, I studied 6 hours, or I pull an all-nighter. What they really mean is that they procrastinated for 5 hours, or they procrastinated for most of the night, and they end up studying for 1 hour. And then they don't tell everyone, oh, I studied for 6 hours. Engineering, you can't do that. If you tell someone you study for 6 hours, you probably study for 6 hours. So yeah, that's something that really get people, because an engineering student have to be very studious. They have to be very hardworking, or they're not going to be able to make it through.
A lot of students don't realize how much work is required to really become an engineer.
That's what I just said.
Academicians and professors can do also a better job of making the case that this is something that you want to do.
Programs where students build things like human-powered vehicles are part of the school's efforts to keep them from abandoning the major.
The idea is to make it go fast, also transport cargo.
But many say they enter
Okay,
college.
so that was one of the engineering project that you might be doing in the club or stuff like that. You're never really going to be working on it. Some people might go through the entire engineering school without even touching something like that, doing any type of experimentation like that. Engineering is a very physics-based, very math-heavy courses. Everything you're going to learn is theoretical. Projects such as that, it's probably with a club that you might sign up for. When I was at Penn State, we do this thing called super mileage car, and we make car very similar to that. Let me go back a little bit. Very similar in design to that. And the goal of that was to make the vehicle go as far as possible on as little gas as possible. So very frustrating in engineering was that I'm just studying all the time. I don't get to do any of these hands-on work. And when I do join a club to do that, it's only once a week that we actually meet up, and it's only for an hour or 2 hours a week at most that is having trouble with that. So instead of switching out of engineering entirely, they might do a technology degree. So like instead of switching out of mechanical engineering degree, go to mechanical engineering technology degree, right? And an E-Tech degree. You get to learn the exact same thing, but it's more hands-on. And it's a little easier when it comes to curriculum. When I say switch to a different school for easier, not that the curriculum is any easier, the homework might be a little bit less, and then the exam is not as beat you out in the exam. The exam is to test your knowledge. In a lot of these big engineering school, the exam and the homework has nothing to do with each other. You could know the material 100% and you can go take the exam and you can still fail it because it's all about weeding people out. Versus when you go to the smaller school, it's just more about testing. See, it's probably what you're going to see on the homework a little bit more.
Prepared.
In high school, I took a lot of calculus and physics and chemistry courses, so it was something I was interested in. And throughout my first couple semesters, I was struggling with the math and sciences.
Yep, that's very common. That's very common. A lot of students are almost a perfect student in high school. They are top of their class. They're on the dean list. They are very studious, and then they go to the engineering program at colleges and university, and they just couldn't keep up because it's a whole nother level.
But here at Columbia, 96% of students that enter engineering graduate as engineers.
I believe, and a lot of people in our school believe, that engineering is the liberal arts of the 21st century.
The engineering dean at Columbia University attributes...
Okay, I need to stop this. Okay, so Columbia is an Ivy League. To get in, you have to be extremely, extremely smart. And then you have to apply to individual school by itself once you get to Columbia. I know this because I applied. The student that make it into the school, smart individual already, that you can't compare these students to like some students that you would see in a state school. I got into Johns Hopkins, I got into Rice, I know the culture there for my master's. That's after I got my physics degree, and I still might go to Johns Hopkins for engineering. We'll see.
Its success to a more practical approach.
When you go to school and all you see is differential equations, and you don't see the application of that differential equation of the Fourier transform into a real application of a bridge or a building, you start losing interest.
Yep,
that's
actually a lot of complaints
on seeing the application, both from the impacts to society that they can make, as well as their own satisfaction.
I want to work in the nuclear industry.
Why spend so much time studying? Is it worth it?
It is worth it.
Why?
It is worth it, yeah.
Because you become more well-rounded. You look at the world differently.
In New York, Poppy Harlow, CNN Money.
What did she switch to? Or is she still in engineering? Well, this is from 2012. That was a year before I joined a university. So hopefully the students in the video they found some success in their life, and maybe hopefully she did finish. You know, I had to go into the military. This is the second video. Let's watch it.
We're glad you're watching 7 News Live at 5. The manufacturing industry, you may realize, is booming here in the upstate, and that means engineers are in high demand.
They are indeed, but nationwide statistics show many students who begin college hoping to get an engineering degree are switching majors. And tonight, 7 News reporter Nicole Ford is talking with Clemson researchers who are hoping, Nicole, to change that statistic.
Gordon, there are a number of paths that could lead students to getting an engineering degree, whether it's a technical college or a four-year university like Clemson. But the one thing all these paths have in common is calculus, and it's that course that researchers believe is the problem for the large number of students that are abandoning their engineering coursework.
So they just said the calculus is the biggest classes. That's usually very common in every single school. There's 5 weed-out courses that you have to take. Calculus 1, Calculus 2, and these are in the order of the most drop to the least drop. Calculus 1 is the most drop, Calculus 2 is the second most drop. Sometimes it's Calculus 2 because people can CLEP, or they could AP out of Calculus 1, but then they go into Calculus 2. So Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Physics 1, Physics 2, and Chemistry 1. So these 5 courses are the weed-out courses that you will take in the first 2 years, and if you can't pass it by the end of your second year, you can't go into engineering in some of these colleges. Some people who did AP Calculus in high school and they were able to CLEP out of it, or to not have to take it in college again. Some of them thought, oh, maybe it's an easy A because I already know calculus and stuff, and they take it again and they study very, very hard. They already know the material, but they have to study their butts off to get a C. And I have spoken to many people like this before, because it's weed out courses. Weed out courses are designed to fail you, right? They want to get rid of a certain percentage of people per class. And I was talking to a professor at Penn State in the physics department, and he said that if more than 70% of the students pass with a C or higher, the professor will get in trouble.
Manufacturing is an ever-growing field in South Carolina. But to be successful, they need a skilled workforce.
We've got companies who are in this state who are saying, we need more engineering professionals, we need more engineering professionals, and we can't provide
let me say something about that. So they just said that a lot of companies are looking for engineers and they can't fill the engineering position. Problem with that is a lot of engineers who graduate, they don't work in engineering because no one's hiring them. The problem with engineering is that companies are looking for engineers with at least 2 years of experience. For entry-level engineering job, they need 2 years of experience. And they're not willing to hire fresh out of school engineers or engineers that may not have internships. And that's one of the things I struggle with when I first got my physics degree, was that I just could not find a job. Everyone wants some experience in the field, and you can't get experience if no one will hire you.
With local South Carolina graduates.
That's because a large number of engineering majors are not graduating as engineers.
This is Clemson. Clemson is a university in South Carolina, if you're wondering.
Gallagher says more than 60% of underrepresented minorities, 69% of 2-year degrees, and 37% of 4-year degrees don't finish their engineering major.
Yep, the first 2 years is the most beat out years.
Is pinpointing why this is happening.
Nationally, we know that a student who places below calculus is twice as likely to drop out of an engineering major as a student who starts in calculus.
It all goes back to the level of preparedness in math.
I didn't score high enough on my CMPT.
Okay, CMPT is a Clemson-based placement program. So if you go in a lot of these engineering school, especially if they're higher, they'll have you take these math exam to test your calculus, pre-calculus aptitude or your knowledge. So if you don't score high enough in calculus, then or in pre-calculus, you might have to take pre-calculus first. And that's what I have to do. I had to take trigonometry before, but I scored really, really high on my trigonometry when I was doing it at Penn State, the class. I got an A in it. But then once I got to calculus, then I can barely pass with a C. They're blaming calculus, and people are coming into college without calculus background. No, I think a lot of people who come into college that doesn't have that kind of math level, they might not be as studious as students that might be taking these AP calculus classes in high school. So that's probably why. But you'll probably have a different culture and different level of willingness to work hard. I don't think it's anything to do with whether they come prepared or not, because if they don't come with the knowledge, they'll take an easier, lower math courses for a semester or two to get that baseline knowledge, and then they'll go to the calculus one. But right, once you get to calculus one, it's a weed out course, and a lot of people drop out of calculus one. Like I said, it's one of the most dropout courses in the entire engineering program.
I think you needed a 65 to be in calculus 1, and I kept scoring in the 50s. I took it about 4 times, and I couldn't get the score that I needed.
For engineering sophomore Tiara Green, she's now behind in her coursework and won't graduate on time because of this one math class, and she's not alone.
Okay, you won't graduate on time. Engineering, you need to think of it as, instead of a 4-year program, it's a 5-year program. A lot of people who go into engineering, you cannot take the same amount of class as people who go in for art or history or English or any other degree. You have to do the bare minimum. You have to do at least 12 to 14 credits. If you do anything more than that, you're going to get overwhelmed really, really quickly, because just one of these engineering classes are going to take over your entire life. And then you're going to start seeing it impact other courses like your history class, which is supposed to be an elective and it's supposed to be easy, English class, which is supposed to be easy, and then it's just taking away all the time you need to study for these really, really easy classes. So take it slow and easy. If you have to, go part-time in the summer. Take a few engineering courses, get it out of the way in the summertime, like one classes in the summertime at the time, and then once you go into your regular semester, take less classes. Be willing to take more years, right? You're going to accrue more debt, but then you can pay it off easier as an engineer because you make more money.
What I'm hoping is by looking at the data, by seeing what the data tell us about how kids succeed and how kids fail, that we will come up with some new solutions.
So with a $300,000 grant and 23 researchers from across the state, the hope is to find this solution by working with universities, K-12 schools, and students in this 2-year study.
If they really are looking for solutions, they would probably try to make the exams a little less hard. But a lot of mentality from this professor and these College of Engineering dean is that these engineers and physicists and all these things, they're going to go out and they're going to be building bridges. They're going to be building buildings, and we don't want low-tier engineer who can just barely get through. We want the top of the top, because if they do something wrong with their calculations, if they're not as hard-working and they make a building and it crumbles, people die. If they build bridges and the bridges you don't take into account the proper math to do oscillation, cancellation, and all these different like hardcore math and physics that you need to know to be an engineer. If they're not at that level, then people will die. There's such a push to make engineering so hard and the dropout rate so high, but then you have this problem where people drop out too much and companies are complaining that they can't have enough people, but then colleges still don't want to make it easier, so that now they're trying to appeal to more students, to get more students to apply and make classes bigger. But I think the underlying problem is it's just way too hard. It just takes too much time to study and all these things, and kids 18 years old, you just want to party. You see all your friends partying. They're in business degree, they're in art degree, they're in other degrees. They get to party all the time, and then you're stuck in your room studying all night long. Yep, that's usually what turns people away from engineering.
Study. And Gallagher says it's very important to find this solution because a lot of these students are essentially walking away from a 6-figure salary at companies that...
Whoa. 6-figure salary. Not starting. Okay, 6-figure is not starting. You're looking at around $70,000 to $80,000 starting for engineering in 2023. 6-figure after maybe 5 years of working, maybe you can climb up there. Maybe as 10 years of working. Unless you're in computer science. Computer is a really lucrative field right now.
And nurture them. Stay right here in South Carolina. Live in Clemson, Nicole Ford, 7 News.
And Nicole, this story is hitting me where I live. One of my kids is an engineering major at Clemson. So
I hope he's doing well. This
is the problem. Is it just that they're not showing up at college with enough of a math background to do it?
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. So that's why they're going to be looking at K through 12 schools, because it's all about placing them into Calculus 1 when they get here at Clemson's.
Oh my gosh, the solution is just so backward. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to encourage the K-12 school to teach higher math, but these students who are coming into college without the math background, they can just take the lower math classes and get the skills at college. Like I said, I took trigonometry when I was in college for my first semester, so I could qualify for calculus, and I did very, very well in it. The problem is not that. The problem is that once they get into these weed-out courses, these schools are going heads over heels just to weed out these students, get them out of the school. Oh my gosh, there's some disconnect in what they're telling you guys and what they're telling everyone else. Like, oh, well, if they just have the proper math background, they would be able to do it. No. People who are not at the higher level of math when they leave, that they tend to not be as hard of a worker versus some people who are more advanced honor math classes, that they tend to be harder worker in high school, so that translate over to college very, very well.
So you have to take 4 calculuses, and if you're getting into pre-calculus when you start, then you're essentially behind already by 1 semester.
And every one of those classes
That's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. If you have to take a semester extra to graduate, that's not a big deal. Do it, right? Instead of taking 18 credits, killing yourself, not ever getting sleep, get maybe some sleep and do 12 classes or 12 credits. 12 credits, 4 classes, 2 class engineering, 2 class elective, right? Instead of doing these insane schedule. right? Take it slow. Engineering is very, very difficult. Take it slow. Like slow and steady finishes the race.
It's more money too, as well. All right, Nicole Ford, thank you.
Yep, it's more money, but you'll make it back when you're an engineer. My reaction video to these engineering videos, I'll be making more reaction videos to some other people talking about it. But if you have any questions about engineering, if you're struggling through these engineering programs and you need some encouragement or some advice, please comment down below. I'll try to respond. What I'm doing a reaction to another video is protected under the Fair Use Law or the Fair Use Act, so I could do it completely legal. I'm not making any money off these videos. They're not. I'm not monetizing them. No ads. All right. Bye.